That'd be great.
Oh my gosh, even the timer went there. That's cool. All right, we're back. Is it far away than normal?
No, we're good. Just
okay, cool. We're late today. That's my fault. I had a football game and I lost track of time because I was upset, but that's all right.
They lost.
We tied. We didn't lose. There's a difference.
It's not a big difference.
There is a difference. In intramurals, there's a big difference, actually, because if we're 2 wins, 2 losses, and a tie, we're still in the playoffs. So, all right. Yeah, I'm ticked. Okay, so joke today, right? Wait.
Yeah.
Joke today.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 4 guys in an airplane. There's, let's think here. I want to up this joke to the newest age. Who's really rich? That's too political. Kanye West. All right, Kanye West. A pastor, engineering student, and a computer engineer. No, engineering student, not a computer engineer. And a carpenter. A carpenter, an engineering student, a pastor, and Kanye West are in an airplane. And the airplane is flying, and it starts to go down. And they look, and they see 3 parachutes, and there's 4 people. And the first guy, the carpenter, looks at everyone else and is like, carpenters are important. It's the most important job. Get it? Jesus was a carpenter. So he takes one of the parachutes and he jumps out. So now there's 2 parachutes left and 3 people. And Kanye West is like, I'm a $1 million. I'm awesome and Danzilla likes me. And he takes the parachute and jumps out of the plane. And the pastor goes over and talks to the engineering student. Is like, son, I'm right with God. You can take the last parachute and jump out of the plane. And the engineering student's giggling over there because he doesn't know who Kanye West is. And he's like, oh, dude, we're all right. Kanye West took my backpack.
And once again, another disappointment from Michael.
That was severely bad.
That was all right because there's still 2 parachutes left.
Ashley asked Zach, why is the plane going down?
I'm an aerospace engineer.
That's
That's funny. That was way funnier than his joke.
Ashley and I set that up.
Actually, if you want to take his job, it is open at the moment.
Yes,
so.
We have an open position for an Amish person. All right, so like we said, welcome back. It's been the first time that we're back after a few week break here. We had some stuff going on. We're glad to be back doing Facebook Live videos with you guys under our new brand of Theology of Plain Men. Yeah, so we're super stoked. For those of you who don't know, we did fire up a blog. It's theologyofplainmen.wordpress.com. If you want to check it out, we got a few articles up there. Hopefully we'll be getting some more up there as we keep going along. But today, is up by the promo. We're starting with, get back into it, legislating away our problems. In this kind of political, I guess, sort of a sphere we've been in called a Christian's role in public policy. We kind of wanted to go this route of, I guess, kind of what's the point of legislation? As a Christian, how do we view legislation? Yeah. Intro, any other things I'm missing on that?
I'll just go. So we're going to be talking about, as is clear from the title, legislating our problems away, how we can take it too far. And so with anything, you can go on 2 different extremes with anything. You can say all legislation is bad. What's the point of it? Or you can say we can put our hope in legislation that, we have to create all these laws, all these rules, and that's what is going to make people good. And so we've hit this side before talking about, why would we even put anything in government? What's the point? And if that's what you're questioning right now, we'd encourage you to go back and watch some of our prior videos. We really touch on this because God has established government as a means to bring forth justice. So a good government enforces justice in the community. That's what Romans 13 is talking about.
Yeah.
And we've gone in depth into that. So if you want to hear more, look at that. And now, again, we're going to take the other side then. So if God has put in government, has put in rulers over us for good, then what do we do in response to that? Do we then put our trust in that government? Do we really go at it and try to just, this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem, let's make them all legal, and let's just go with that? What's our application here?
Yeah. So, are we going to just kind of get after it?
Yeah.
Cool. So I think as kind of to preface this whole thing, like I said, we're coming from a Christian perspective. Do we have...
Sorry, Jason asked if we're sponsored by Gatorade.
We're
not, but we do have sponsorships open.
Yeah, Gatorade. If anyone from Gatorade's out there, we're here.
0 chance.
Unlikely. Like I said, so it's... Getting back into it. Sorry. It's really important before we start talking about dealing with people, right? Because governments deal with people. We're making laws to legislate people. We should know a little bit about people. And as Christians, we have a particular insight about people. We get it numerous places, and I think I'm going to actually go to Ephesians real quick. I miss it.
Got popcorn.
That's what I do.
Power company.
Okay, I'm just going to read Ephesians 2:1, 1 and 2. And you were dead in your trespasses and sins, in which you once walked, following the course of the world, following the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that is now at work in the sons of disobedience. This is kind of prefacing when Paul's talking about here, he's saying that you were dead, right? People are sinful, we're broken. Ever since Genesis 3, when Adam and Eve ate the fruit, people have been sinful and separated from God, doing only unrighteous things by nature, children of wrath. So I think that's just an important ground level to start at, to understand that people are inherently bad.
Which is a big statement.
Yeah.
And that's an argument that's going to go on throughout the course of human history. It has been going on, and it's like, can we make good people? What is good? I mean, there's a lot of questions that go along with that. But if you believe this book, the crux of the gospel is that people are bad.
It's a staple, yeah.
1 Timothy says Christ came to save sinners, but God demonstrated his love for us that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. All these things are in light because we are bad. So being a bad person isn't necessarily a terrible thing because everybody's bad. And that's the best thing about the gospel is it's a level playing field. It's everyone's even at the foot of the cross. And I think being a bad person is good. In a certain sense, in the sense of the gospel. But the gospel pushes you towards something more and something greater to follow God's plan for your life because he gave up everything.
Yeah. So I think I guess that's my point. Is as we're kind of rolling into this, if we can have the other understanding that where we're coming from is that we're all terrible. What we want in our flesh, and we've talked about this in numerous videos before, is what we want in our flesh is to do what we want, not what God wants. Our flesh is entirely opposed to God by nature. And it's important to start there if we're going to properly understand, okay, now how do we legislate bad people who inherently want to do bad things?
Can I do something? And that brings up a question my dad always used to say to me when I was sitting on my dad's lap. He would say to me, Michael, laws don't make people good.
Why?
My dad's got a sick stash and he can say whatever he wants.
All right, so Michael, if you want to elaborate a little bit on that.
All right. The idea that laws don't make people good is think about the 3-year-old, the 2-year-old, 5-year-old. Think about you when you were young, or even now. When someone says, "Don't do that," what do you want to do? And I think that my dad's example, this might be a bad example, whatever, is you don't have to teach a young kid how to steal. You don't have to teach a young kid how to not share. You don't have to teach a kid how to take things that aren't his or hit another kid. You don't have to teach a kid that. Kid knows how to do that. The other side is you have to teach a kid how not to hit people, how to share, how to be kind. You have to teach the reverse. So that's showing that, one, all men are sinful, and two, it's showing that even when we make rules, kids still disobey, and then adults will still disobey too. And I think that's why there's a speed limit. And it's like, but do people still speed? Sure, laws don't make people good. And you can argue this to the bone. I'm sure you can find cases where laws do sometimes make people good and people change because of laws. I'm not saying this is a cut and dry every case, but in general, mankind has always turned away from law, has always tried to break it, find the gray area, go as far as they can to break it. And that's just something, being a student of human history, that you see time and time again.
Yeah, and we see this pattern backed up in Scripture through the law that God implemented through Moses in the book of Exodus. And so God gave all these set of rules and pretty much said, if you live by this, you will be righteous. And the rest of the Old Testament from there on out is the Jews not being able to live by that rule. They weren't able to do it. Not only were they not able to do it, they just very far from it. They rebelled. They totally ignored it at points. They overthrew people because of it. And so, just another thing, laws don't make people good. And we see it beyond that laws, the law, the Mosaic law was there. The whole purpose of that was to show that we are not good, that we are not there at a level that God demands of us. And so that backs up Zach's earlier point that we have to go into this whole discussion of, are people good or bad? Well, they're bad because we see that we can't even attain the set of righteousness, if you want to call that our government implements. Mm-hmm. Of, I mean, you're going to tell me that no one speeds or even jaywalks or any of this. So if we can't do that, how much less the law God implements? Mm-hmm. And so going into it with that framework of who people are, you further backs it up, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, I think kind of one thing we also talked about is when we're having this discussion, if we're taking the mindset and we're putting so much stock and we're putting so much faith in government and in laws, and we're thinking, man, if we pass a law and a bill to do this, it's just going to fix everything. And when we bring that into the discussion, some cases it will help. And I'm not saying legislation is bad. I don't think any of us are here to argue that in any sense. Legislation is good. And when we look at the law that God institutes, God instituted the perfect law. It was perfect. It was from God, right? And even a law that came from God didn't fix the sin problem of humanity. And, I mean, we see that backed up in Scripture. We see that, I'm actually just going to read it, from Galatians 3, I'm going to start in verse 10. For all who rely on works of the law are under a curse, for it is written, cursed be everyone who does not abide by all things written in the book of the law, and do them. Now it is evident that no one is justified before God by the law, for the righteous shall live by faith. And Paul goes on to talk about how it's not about the law. Even the law, its purpose was to show you that your sin and essentially stir you towards living by faith. Paul goes on to talk about that through Galatians. And I think that's where I come from, is when I'm looking at the purpose of legislation, and reason why I make sure I don't put all of my faith there. I recognize that it's good, but I don't put my faith there, is that even the law God instituted could not make bad people into good people. So why would I think that a human law could accomplish that?
I think the logical question now is, what now? If we can't legislate perfection, if we can't legislate a perfect set of rules for everyone, what can we now do?
I can take this for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if we can you clear that out on your phone?
Oh, I got it.
Thanks. We just got a notification. So, in a prior video, we were talking about our role as Christians with the government in terms of abortion, right? And so, we made the case that abortion is always wrong, and that we should we should use the government as a means of carrying out justice to then pretty much use our voting power to vote pro-life. That's a very boiled down version of what we talked about.
You should go back and watch that video if you want an actual...
Yeah, because that's in no way a good summary of it. But, so let's say, so we clearly think that legislation should be used to do something like that. But does that mean that's going to stop the problem? No. It's clear that doesn't stop the problem. I mean, historically, statistically, that doesn't solve it. Is it a start? Yes, but more has to happen. And I think all three of us are going to argue that change happens on an individual level. Conversations are a great way to begin change. Having discussions with people is how you're going to do it. So be open to dialogue. If you really want to make change with someone, go talk to someone you disagree with, and be willing to disagree with them well. That might mean you are willing to listen a lot better than maybe you have in the past. Maybe a lot better than they will. It means you're respecting them. A lot of these things that we've set as ground rules for what we're going to do in terms of talking about politics and all this, it's really helpful because change happens at an individual level. So be willing to get your hands dirty, to get angry, but to do so with respect and honor for that other person, remembering that they're made in the image of God and they have value too. So it's not about you being up here and trying to toe this other person. See yourself at an even playing field and work toward a state of truth. Find your truth claim and work toward it together.
That's something I want to hit on because I think Americans, everyone sucks at it, especially in America because we're all really prideful. Is this, we can't admit when we're wrong. So if I want you to do this. I mean, and me, I look to this and me and what Matt's saying, go have a conversation with somebody who disagrees with you and actually think that what you believe is wrong and that what they believe might be right. Consider it. And then be like, wait a second, maybe they are. And then change and admit you're wrong. Like,
yeah.
I've had to do that before. It sucks in the moment, but then I realize it sucks because I'm prideful, because I'm arrogant, and I want my way to be right. Yeah. So even if my way is wrong and I know it's wrong, I'm going to argue it, and then just bulldoze somebody with a fallacy or with whatever. But go have a conversation with somebody who disagrees with you and assume that you're wrong the entire time. And that's what I try to do, and one, it makes you listen a lot better because you're actually interested in what they're saying, not just thinking about how to counteract what they're saying, but you're actually listening to what they're saying. And that's going to flip the whole conversation. You want to change the whole conversation in America? I think that's how you do it. It's really hard to get 330 million people to agree with me on that, but it's all right. If everyone laid down their pride, that'd be a great thing. But
and the simple fact that you guys probably agree. I know in my life, people who have had conversations with that I really disagree, and you're not changing their mind in one conversation. That's pretty rare. Even you can have a set, logical pathway. You can have every point nailed down to a T. But guess what? There's so much more with these sort of decisions, especially ones that have been politicized. There is so much emotional weight and so much around it that you're probably not going to get much success in one conversation. That's why all the more to respect and care for one another and to be humble in it, because you want conversation 2, 3, 4 to be there so that as you have time to process, as you both do to see how did it go, you want to be able to continue that relationship to keep going forward, because those are where you're going to be making better conversation along the line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. So, do you have any comments?
Nope. So conversation's one way. We're trying to keep this video shorter tonight anyway, and we're almost done tonight. So conversation is one good way of dialogue, humbling yourself. Again, we've talked about that a lot. What is the conversation you should be going for? And I think it's a Sunday school answer, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I guess I was. Yeah, so, I mean, when we talk about what's the problem with people, well, the problem is sin. I think we've made the case for that. Certainly here, if you would want us to make a greater case for that, we'd be more than happy to. But the problem is sin. Okay, well, the law instituted by God didn't fix sin. What did fix sin? Jesus Christ on the cross. That was the solution, right?
Right after where he stopped reading early in Galatians, continues, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone who is hanged on a tree.
Yeah.
No under the law, because that did not do it. Mm-hmm. Christ did.
Yeah.
And now, finish your thought.
So, and that's where our conversations go. Is eventually, like, when it comes to all these conversations and debates we have, it's okay, where inherently is the problem I'm having with the disagreement with this person? What's the problem? Oftentimes, where I'm disagreeing, am I being too prideful? Okay, well, that's a sin problem. I need to give that to Christ, right? The fact of the matter is, you're sinful and separated from God. I am. These two are. But Jesus Christ went on the cross. Was, I suppose. Sorry, misspoke. We were, at one point, sinful and separated from God. But Christ bought us, right? With a price. It was his life. He suffered death for us. And that's the most important thing. And that's the most important conversation and the biggest change we can institute to someone and push them towards isn't to have them align with our political views. The biggest change we can give someone is for them to put their faith in Jesus Christ. At the end of the day, I would love to see conversations about that. And then let's see that govern how we make political decisions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it all starts somewhere, and I think we should attack what the real problem is.
And there's such an easy transition here. I mean, for those of you who are looking for evangelism opportunities, talk about politics. And if you disagree, hold on. I know that sounds bad. But seriously, if you disagree, boil it down. Why? It's probably a fundamental worldview issue. You're probably coming at it from two completely different lenses of what good is and how we are as human beings. Work down why you believe that way, and that's a clear transition into understanding and explaining your worldview. Probably after you listen to theirs.
Yep. After you listen to theirs. Also, you need to be a really good communicator to do that, so work on your communication skills, because generally Jesus plus politics equals politics.
True.
Unless you go at it from politics equals a worldview equals let's look at differences in worldview. But you need to be pretty tactful to get there and not bring emotion into that, or else it's just going to turn into a political argument and you're not going to get anywhere. You have to be steadfast at digging at worldviews, not really asking what people believe politically, but why they believe what they believe politically.
Yeah. That's
the thing you want to dig up there as a conversationalist. And I think this sums it up pretty well. 1 Corinthians 15:54, one of those back in the sticks, saying, that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting? The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the law. But thanks be to God who gives us victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your toil is not in vain in the Lord. Be steadfast in your work in the Lord, which is sharing the gospel. Because next to my political positions, sharing the gospel is huge. It's way more important, because that's the thing that's changed my life. So my encouragement to you is be steadfast. The work in the Lord is not in vain, and that is the most important work. Mm-hmm. And it's how we're going to legislate away our problems is by talking to people about Jesus again. Bring him back to the conversation.
So to summarize everything we just said, have a good understanding of who people are. Biblical answer, sinful.
Yeah.
What do we do in response to that? Well, we know that the answer isn't to go all without laws, because laws are good, but the answer is not to trust in laws, because laws are not good. Laws show us that we're not good. Therefore,
they don't make good people. Yeah.
Yes. Therefore, share the gospel. Have communication. Be willing to disagree well. Care for people. Listen. All of these things are really important and are going to be helpful to all of us. Lasting change comes through the gospel, but it comes through the gospel being applied through conversations on the individual level. So that's what we're going to encourage you guys with. Don't put your hope in legislation. Put your hope in the gospel and share that hope with others every day.
Yep.
And I'm sure you've heard that 1,000 times, but he said the one word that I actually want us to do is apply. If you've heard it 1,000 times, it must be worth trying. Try it this week.
Yep.
Be a conversationalist. Be humble.
Yeah.
Just try it once. I need to keep doing it. I failed that a lot, but let's try it.
Right.
Together.
Cool. Is there anything else?
That's it.
Uniting Christ.
Cool.
I'm going to keep saying phrases.
All right. Thanks for joining us, you guys.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.
Good night.